The map should not have changed. Elias Crow knew it too well to make that kind of mistake. It was an ancient artifact, kept at the bottom of a chest for years, more curiosity than tool. A piece of dried hide, imprecise lines, nameless seas, and, at its center, a symbol that had never made sense. Until that night. Without wind, without warning, the symbol darkened, standing out from the rest of the map, as if it had been freshly marked. No island, no coordinates, only the sign. At dawn, the sea died. The waves ceased as if ordered to stop. The sails sagged heavy. The silence was not the absence of sound. It was pressure, as though something were pushing inward on the ears. Then the island appeared. Not on the horizon, not rising. It was simply there, as if it had always been. Black rocks surrounded the coast in shapes that resembled broken ruins. Between them, stone structures emerged from the jungle, tilted at wrong angles, covered in symbols identical to the one on the map. Some were incomplete, others seemed recent. Miriam Hale felt nausea when she saw them. Not fear, recognition. When the first boat touched the dark sand, something changed in the light. The shadows stretched too far. Among the trees, humanoid shapes stood motionless, watching. They did not move. They did not breathe. They were simply there, copying the posture of the living. "Did you see that?" someone whispered. No one answered. The paths divided on their own. The ruins seemed closer with every step, and for a moment too brief to be certain, Elias had the impression that one of the shadows wore the face of someone who was still on the ship. The map in his hand erased the symbol. The island no longer needed it. There were stories about islands that did not appear on maps, but almost all of them ended the same way. A sailor's exaggeration, madness caused by too much sun or too much rum. Most were dismissed before they were even told to the end. This one was not. The map first appeared in a colonial inventory with no date, listed only as artifact recovered from unknown origin. It bore no name and no legend. Where an island should have been, there was only a symbol, ancient beyond any known language. The few scholars who attempted to copy it failed. The symbol never came out the same twice. Some swore it changed when it was not being observed. All previous owners of the map met the same fate. They disappeared, went mad, or returned, different. There were records of survivors who spoke of impossible ruins made of black stone, covered in markings that caused pain simply from being observed for too long. They spoke of humanoid creatures seen only in the shadows, motionless, imitative, as if they were learning how to be human again. None of those survivors could explain what the island was, but all of them agreed on one thing. The island did not trap bodies. It trapped versions of people. Miriam Hale knew those accounts. She had studied every fragment, every incomplete annotation, every erased map. To her, this was not superstition. It was a pattern, and patterns existed to be understood. What Miriam did not yet know was that the island did not appear on maps in order to be found. It appeared to choose, and when it chose, it did not accept refusal. The boat creaked with every stroke of the oars, as if the wood itself resisted touching that shore. The sand was not ordinary sand. It was dark, heavy, clinging to the skin like damp powder. When Elias Crow jumped out first, he felt the ground give slightly beneath his weight, as if he were stepping on something that breathed too deeply. No birds, no insects, not even the sound of the sea behind them felt real. "Move quickly," the captain ordered, more to himself than to the others. Miriam Hale was the last to disembark. The moment her feet touched the ground, she felt pressure behind her eyes, a sharp, brief pain, as if something had been forcibly remembered. She looked toward the jungle, and had the impression that the jungle was looking back. The first ruins were there in plain sight, as if they had never tried to hide. A circle of black stones emerged partially from the sand, forming an irregular pattern. None of the stones were identical, none bore tool marks, and yet they fit together with unsettling precision. "This isn't human," Miriam murmured before she could stop herself. Elias shot her a hard look, but did not disagree. They approached cautiously. As they drew closer, the symbols became visible, carved deep into the stone, curved lines and abrupt breaks that felt wrong to the brain. Miriam recognized the design instantly. It was the same as the map, exactly the same. "Don't touch them," she warned. Not yet. Too late. Jonah Pike had already run his hand over one of the carvings. He recoiled instantly, pulling his arm back with a grunt. What the hell? Blood slowly trickled from his nose. I just touched it. The symbol looked different now. It had not changed shape and it had closed. A line that had once been incomplete had joined the others. Samuel Reed laughed, short and nervous. You're all seeing too much, it's just old stone. He kicked one of the markings. The sound that followed was not impact, but echo, as if the stone were hollow inside. Samuel's laugh died in his throat. For a strange moment, no one could remember what he had said seconds earlier. The paths began just beyond the coastal ruins. They were not cleared trails, but subtle interruptions in the vegetation. Bent branches, broken leaves, darker soil. There were 3 possible directions. We stay together, Elias said. No wandering off. Thomas Gray nodded too quickly, his eyes constantly drifting back to the sea, as if he expected the ship to have vanished. As they advanced, Miriam noticed something disturbing. The paths did not remain the same. When she looked back, she was certain the route behind them was not the one they had taken. Trees she did not remember seeing now leaned over them. Stones appeared where there had only been roots. Elias, she called. The paths are changing. They're not, the captain replied automatically. It's just initial disorientation. Still, he stopped walking. It was Lydia Ashcroft who noticed the shadows first. She said nothing. She simply stopped, her eyes fixed between the trees. Jonah followed her gaze and felt his stomach drop. Between the trunks, humanoid shapes stood motionless. Too tall, too thin, arms hanging at wrong angles. One of them seemed tilted, as if it were learning to copy someone's posture. Do you see? Jonah began. The shadows vanished in the next instant. They did not run. They did not move. They were simply no longer there. What is it? Eliza Moore asked, fingers tightening around the necklace at her throat. Nothing, Jonah answered too quickly. Branches. No one believed him. They continued until they reached a larger structure, partially buried, stone steps descending into darkness. The air there was colder. The sound was wrong. Every breath seemed to return delayed. Miriam knelt at the entrance. Symbols lined the sides, older, deeper. Some were worn. Others were freshly opened, like wounds. These ruins aren't abandoned, she said softly. They're active. Then we go in fast and get out, Elias decided. Just to confirm, Samuel was the first to descend. On the 3rd step, he stopped. Did you hear that? Hear what? Thomas asked. My name. Silence fell heavy. No one said anything, Miriam said. Samuel frowned, confused, as if trying to grasp something slipping through his fingers. Weird, he murmured. I could have sworn. A scream cut through the forest. It came from behind them. When they turned, they realized that one of them was no longer there. No one could say who. There was an empty space in the group, and a shared sense of error, like a missing word in a familiar sentence. Fear came afterward. First came doubt, then the certainty that something had been taken without struggle, without sound. Miriam looked down. In the dark soil, there were footprints. They did not lead into the jungle. They led from the jungle into the ruins. The missing name did not return. They tried to reconstruct the group in silence, lining up faces, counting steps, repeating in their minds who had climbed down from the boat. The number never fit. There was always an invisible gap, an absence that hurt, without a clear reason. Who screamed? Elias finally asked. No one answered. Samuel opened his mouth, closed it again, frowned. He rubbed his face as if exhausted. I don't remember, he said. I remember the scream. I don't remember who. A chill crept up Miriam's spine. This was not ordinary forgetting. It was as if the name had been removed from memory, not erased, as if it had never existed. The ruins seemed closer now, though no one had moved. The entrance that had been several steps away now lay almost within reach. The shadows around them thickened like ink slowly bleeding between the trees. We're not going in, Elias decided. We pull back, return to the boat. They turned together. The path was gone. Where there had been an opening through the vegetation, there was now only dense jungle, trunks intertwined in an unnatural way. Miriam was certain those trees had not been there minutes before. That's impossible, Thomas Gray murmured, his voice breaking. We just came through here. Eliza Moore dropped to her knees. The island doesn't want us to go back, she whispered fervently. It wants us to understand. There's nothing to understand, Samuel snapped, louder than he meant to. It's just a place, a wrong place, but still a place. He kicked an exposed root. The ground answered with a deep sound, like a breath held beneath the earth. Everyone felt it. A moment later, Miriam noticed something new. Symbols were appearing on the surface of the root, as if they had always been there and were only now becoming visible. The same curved stroke, the same abrupt break, the same design as the map. "They're appearing," she said, her voice dry. "Wherever we walk." Jonah swallowed hard. "Or wherever we think." They moved forward with no choice. The forest pushed them onward, closing in behind. At one point, Lydia stopped walking. She stood perfectly still, her head slightly tilted. "Lydia?" Elias called. She didn't answer. Between two trees just a few meters away, a humanoid figure stood motionless. Tall, thin, its head tilted exactly like Lydia's. No face was visible, only shadow. Jonah's heart slammed against his ribs. He took a step forward. The figure tilted as well. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't do that." The shadow dissolved like smoke pulled backward into the trees. Lydia blinked, as if waking. "What?" she asked, confused. No one answered. When they reached the clearing, the structure was fully revealed. A semi-buried stone hall, twisted columns supporting nothing but darkness. The floor was covered in symbols at different stages, some complete, others interrupted halfway through their strokes. "This is a language," Miriam said, kneeling. "Not of words, of states. Each symbol does something." "How do you know?" Elias asked. She hesitated. "I feel it." Samuel laughed nervously. "Of course you do." He stepped forward and placed his foot at the center of the hall. The symbol beneath him closed with a sharp crack. Samuel staggered, clutching his head. "What the hell?" he muttered. "Can you see me?" "Of course we can," Jonah replied. But his voice was weak. Miriam's stomach twisted. Something was wrong. Samuel was there, speaking, moving. But it was like trying to focus on something just outside the field of vision. The mind slid away. "Elias," she whispered. "Look at him. Really look." The captain narrowed his eyes. "I am." "No. Look like it's the first time." Elias tried, and failed. His gaze passed over Samuel without settling. "What's happening to me?" Samuel asked, panic rising. "Why are you all looking at me like that?" No one could answer. That night they camped in the clearing. The fire felt too weak for the darkness around them. The shadows it cast did not match the bodies. Some moved with delay. Others had extra shapes. Miriam woke with pain in her hand. Sitting up, she realized she had been drawing symbols in the dirt with a stick. She did not remember doing it. Worse, they were correct. Across the clearing, between the trees, several humanoid figures watched. They no longer hid completely. They imitated the living, someone sitting, someone standing, someone kneeling. One of them sat exactly like Samuel. Miriam looked away, and when she looked back, Samuel was no longer there. There was no scream this time, only an empty space beside the fire. "He was..." Jonah began, his voice breaking. "No," Eliza interrupted. "He was accepted." The silence that followed was not challenged. Later, while the others slept poorly, Miriam found something carved at the base of a column, almost erased by time. A larger symbol, older, different from the rest. She could not look at it directly, but she understood. The island was not testing paths. It was learning people, and it had already begun to decide which ones were worth keeping. Dawn did not bring light. The sky brightened, but the forest remained submerged in a thick half-darkness, as if daylight had been filtered before reaching the ground. The shadows were still there, perhaps farther away, perhaps not, but present, always present. They did not mention Samuel, not because they did not care, but because the name slipped from the mind whenever they tried to summon it. It was like trying to remember a dream moments after waking. The feeling lingered, heavy and uncomfortable, but the details dissolved. Miriam felt it more strongly than the others. She knew someone had been lost, someone important, someone who spoke too much and mocked fear. She knew, but the name would not come. Instead, the symbol did. She drew it in the dirt, along the edges of stones, inside her own thoughts. "We shouldn't stay here," Thomas Gray said, breaking the silence. "Every minute on this island takes something from us, or reveals it," Eliza Moore murmured, her hollow eyes fixed on the ruins. Elias Crow studied the two paths that opened ahead of the camp. Both led deeper into the island. Both felt wrong. "We move together," the captain said, though his voice no longer carried the weight it once had. Find higher ground, see the sea. No one truly believed that seeing the sea would fix anything. Still, moving felt safer than staying. The ruins became more frequent as they advanced. They were no longer isolated structures but fragments of something larger. Broken walls that enclosed nothing, columns that supported nothing, stairways that climbed only to end abruptly in open air. The symbols covered everything. Some were familiar. The mark from the map, repeated countless times, in different sizes. Others were new, more complex, difficult for the eye to follow. Miriam noticed she avoided staring at certain patterns. Not out of conscious fear, but because her body reacted before her mind did. Nausea, dizziness, a sensation of falling. These symbols, Jonah Pike began, his voice lower than usual. They change. No, Miriam replied. We do. They stopped before a larger structure, partially buried, wider than the others. The entrance gaped open, flanked by cracked pillars. Inside, the darkness felt thick, almost solid. We don't need to go in, Thomas said quickly. Whatever this is, it's the end. Lydia Ashcroft stood at the front. Her eyes showed no fear, only recognition. We've been here before, she said. Everyone turned to her. What do you mean? Elias asked. Lydia placed her hand on one of the pillars. Her fingers did not hesitate. Not us, she corrected. Others. Before. Always before. The interior of the structure seemed to breathe. Each step echoed incorrectly, delayed, as if sound had to pass through something alive before returning. At the center lay a wide hall, its ceiling lost in darkness. The floor was covered in symbols arranged in concentric circles. This is a ritual, Eliza murmured. A judgment. Miriam felt a tightness in her chest. No, she said. It's a record. Before anyone could ask what she meant, the hall changed. Not physically, not yet, but the air grew heavy, dense, and the smell of salt was replaced by something familiar. Do you feel that? Jonah asked, his breathing quickening. The answer came without words. To the left of the hall, a scene began to form, not as a clear vision but as memory projected into space. Indistinct shapes, moving shadows, distant voices. Jonah stepped back. No, he whispered. The scene sharpened. A narrow alley, rain, a man lying on the ground, blood mixing with dirty water. Jonah recognized his own hands, younger, trembling. He recognized the weight of the knife. He recognized the exact moment he decided not to help. I didn't. His voice broke. I didn't know he would die. A shadow moved at the edge of the scene. A humanoid figure stood watching, motionless, its head tilted. When Jonah tried to focus on it, the scene dissolved. He collapsed to his knees. The island doesn't create this, Miriam said with effort. It only projects it. Another space in the hall reacted. This time, Elias Crow. He saw the deck of an old ship, different from the current one. Men arguing. A miscalculation. A poorly chosen route. A shipwreck that had never made it into any official record. It wasn't my fault, Elias said, his jaw tight. The sea changes. Every captain knows that. But the scene did not fade. It repeated. Again and again. Each time, Elias gave the same order. Each time, the result was the same. Enough! He shouted. The symbol beneath his feet closed with a dry crack. Elias fell forward, bracing himself on his knees. When he stood again, his eyes were lost, wandering the hall as if searching for invisible directions. Where? He murmured. Where now? He did not expect an answer. Thomas tried to retreat, but the hall seemed larger now, as if the exit had moved farther away. His scene followed. A small room, a sick woman in a bed, a man choosing to leave because he was afraid to stay. I promised I'd come back, Thomas said, his face contorting. I promised. The figure in the shadows, closer now, tilted its head in perfect imitation. Eliza dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face. This is a test, she said. If we accept it, maybe. It's not a test, Miriam interrupted. It's a mirror. And then it was her turn. Miriam saw a room filled with maps, tables covered in parchment, symbols scribbled compulsively, people speaking to her, colleagues, mentors, and Miriam ignoring all of it in the name of understanding. She saw the ancient map for the first time. She saw herself smile. I just wanted to understand. she whispered. The symbol at the center of the hall began to glow faintly. "You do understand," Eliza said, looking at her with reverence. "The island chose you." "No," Miriam replied, terror rising. "It just needs someone to continue the work." The creatures began to appear along the edges of the hall, not all at once. One here, another there, always in shadow, always motionless, always copying postures. One of them mirrored Elias, standing, indecisive. Another mirrored Jonah, kneeling. Another mirrored Thomas, retreating. "They're not monsters," Lydia said calmly. "They're versions." "Versions of whom?" Jonah asked, his voice broken. Lydia looked at the creatures. "Of those who remained unfinished." Eliza rose slowly. Her face was serene, almost relieved. "The island isn't cruel," she said. "It's just. It gives each person what they deserve to face." "Then stay," Elias said flatly. "If you believe that." Eliza smiled and stepped toward the central symbol. The creatures parted to open a path. When Eliza touched the center of the hall, the symbol closed completely. There was no scream, no light, only the sensation that something had been accepted. When the hall returned to normal, Eliza was gone. In the place where she had stood, a new mark had appeared on the floor, older than all the others. "She chose," Lydia said. "Or she was chosen," Miriam replied. When they left the structure, the forest felt different, quieter, more satisfied. Jonah walked with difficulty. His shadow no longer followed his movements precisely. Elias stopped every few steps, looking around, unable to decide which way was right. Thomas wept silently. Lydia walked ahead, far too confident. Miriam, meanwhile, felt something new settling into her mind. Not answers, but continuity. The island did not want death. It wanted permanence. And someone had to remember for it. The forest ended without warning. There was no gradual transition, no clearing to announce the change. One step forward, and the trees simply ceased, revealing a vast expanse of black stone stretching as far as the weak light of the sky allowed. "This," Elias began, but did not finish. Before them rose something that should not exist. A city, not built, but exposed, as if the island had peeled away a layer of itself to reveal what had always been beneath. Streets far too wide for human feet, paved with irregular blocks covered in ancient symbols. Tall, angular structures leaned in contradictory directions, as though they ignored gravity and logic alike. The city was not in ruins. It was dormant. "This isn't a civilization," Miriam murmured. "It's an archive." Sound behaved incorrectly there. Each step echoed more than once, at uneven intervals. Sometimes the echo came before the movement. Sometimes it did not come at all. Jonah felt his chest tighten. His shadow dragged behind him, delayed, as if it were tired. Thomas stopped at the edge of the main avenue. "I'm not going in," he said. "Whatever this is the end." Lydia turned to him. "The end already passed," she replied. "This is after." She walked forward without hesitation. The humanoid creatures began to appear, not in numbers, never in numbers, one at a time, in alleys, between columns, atop distant structures, always motionless, always watching, always imitating human postures. Someone standing, someone leaning, someone kneeling. Some looked ancient beyond measure, others looked recent. "How many people came through here?" Jonah whispered. Miriam did not answer. She was kneeling, touching the city's stone. She felt the symbols pulse beneath her fingers, like old scars reacting to touch. "They weren't built," she said. "They were added." The first street led them to an open circular hall, niches carved into the walls, niches shaped like human bodies. Some were empty, others were not. There were no bodies, only fixed shadows burned into the stone itself, complete human silhouettes, trapped like scorched memories. Jonah recognized a posture. "That one," his voice broke. "That one is mine." The shadow had tense shoulders, weight pitched forward, exactly how he stood when ready to strike. "Not yet," Lydia said softly. Elias backed away, his eyes darting from symbol to symbol. "This makes no sense. An entire city. For this? It's not for you," Miriam replied. "It's made of you." The city began to respond. Symbols ignited slowly, like embers beneath stone, one after another, in sequences Miriam recognized without knowing how. She knew what came next before she saw it. She knew what closed the cycle. Don't look directly at them, she warned. Some symbols. Don't want to be seen. Thomas ran. The sound of his footsteps echoed too loudly, too fast. He turned a corner and vanished from sight. "Thomas!" Elias shouted instinctively. The reply came as a collective whisper. Overlapping voices, indistinct, uttering something that was not a word, but carried intent. When they reached the corner, they found Thomas standing in the middle of the street, motionless. "Thomas?" Jonah approached cautiously. The man turned slowly. His eyes were empty, but not dead, just absent. "I saw the ship," he said. "It was there, just like we left it." "That isn't real," Miriam said. "Don't touch anything. Too late." Thomas stepped backward and passed through something invisible. His body did not fall, did not scream. It simply sank, as if the street had turned liquid for an instant. Where he had stood, a new symbol sealed itself into the ground. "It doesn't want escape," Jonah murmured. "It wants conclusion." The city guided them deeper. Larger halls, overlapping structures, symbols so ancient they seemed older than the concept of writing itself. Miriam felt her mind fragment as she tried to comprehend them. "It's not language," she said, gasping. "It's process. Every symbol is a crystallized choice." "Whose choices?" Elias asked. "Everyone who came here." The creatures grew closer. Some no longer hid fully in shadow. Their contours were more defined now. Arms too long, joints wrong, heads slightly tilted, as if they were always listening to something distant. One approached Jonah. It did not touch him. It only imitated him. It slowly straightened, copying every micro-adjustment of his posture. When Jonah drew a deep breath, it did too, though no lungs were visible. "Stop," he whispered. The creature tilted its head. Jonah felt something tear inside his chest. Not physical pain, something deeper, a memory detached. He could not say which. "You're becoming incomplete," Lydia observed. "That's how it begins." Elias could no longer bear it. "Enough," he shouted. "We don't move anymore. We decide now. Right or left?" The city answered. The streets ahead multiplied. 5 possible paths, then 6, then 7. Each felt correct for a moment, then wrong the next. Elias spun in place. No, this can't be," he murmured. "There's always a route. Always." A creature appeared before him. Still, indecisive. Elias fell to his knees. "I don't know where to go," he whispered. The symbol beneath him closed. When Jonah tried to help him stand, Elias offered no resistance. He was already gone. His body remained, breathing slowly, eyes open, but empty of direction, of intent, of identity. The creature before him smiled, not with a mouth, with posture. Miriam felt the weight of choice crush her chest. "The city isn't punishment," she said with difficulty. "It's continuity. It takes what was broken and makes it permanent." "Then why are you still whole?" Jonah asked. She did not answer. At the center of the city stood the final structure, a vast open hall beneath the dead sky. On the floor lay a massive symbol, incomplete. One final stroke was missing. "This is the last one," Miriam whispered. "The symbol that decides." The creatures surrounded the space, keeping a respectful distance. Lydia stepped forward. "It isn't death," she said. "It's permanence. The island doesn't want to destroy the world. It wants to preserve it, its way." "And who completes the symbol?" Jonah asked. Lydia looked at Miriam. "You already are." Miriam felt the final stroke form in her mind, not as an idea, as a reflex. "If I complete it," she began. "The city continues," Lydia said. "The island continues. Someone always remembers." Jonah stepped forward. "Then don't complete it." The creature behind him mirrored the movement. His shadow detached completely. Jonah screamed when the creature touched his shoulder. There was no blood, only replacement. When the scream ended, Jonah stood motionless, and another creature occupied his place. Exactly the same. "He didn't die," Lydia said. "He finished." Miriam collapsed to her knees before the symbol. She understood everything. The island did not exist to be found. It existed not to be forgotten, and it needed someone to carry that forward. Her hand trembling, she completed the stroke. The city breathed. The creatures inclined. The island had been remembered. The silence that followed was not empty. It was complete. The city beneath the island remained motionless, as if it were holding its breath after the final stroke of the symbol. The creature stood at a distance, inclined in a posture that was not quite reverence. It was recognition. Miriam Hale knelt at the center of the hall, her hand still resting on the stone. The symbol beneath her fingers was closed now, whole. It no longer pulsed. It no longer called. It simply existed. "Is it over?" a voice asked behind her. Thomas Gray. Miriam turned, startled. He stood there intact, not as he had been. There was something dull in his gaze, as if a part of him had been left behind on another street of the city, but alive. "No," she answered. "It's finished." The city began to withdraw. It did not collapse. It did not crumble. It simply receded, like a memory being pushed to the back of the mind. The structures grew less defined. The symbols faded slowly, not through erosion, but through lack of need. The ground trembled once. Then the sound of the sea returned. Faint at first, distant, but real. "The island is letting us go," Thomas said, his voice shaking. "Isn't it?" Miriam did not answer immediately. She looked at the creatures. Some were already dissolving into shadow. Others remained, motionless, like markers left behind. "It's not us," she said at last. "It's you." Thomas went pale. "And you?" Miriam rose with effort. Her body felt heavy, as if it carried something too large to fit inside her. "I already left," she replied. The path back to the coast opened without resistance. The forest no longer closed behind them. The coastal ruins looked smaller now, older, almost harmless. The stone circle stood broken, incomplete. The boat waited where they had left it. So did the ship, whole, silent, as if it had never drifted away. Thomas stopped before climbing aboard. "I don't remember everything," he said. "There are gaps, things I know I lost." "The island collects," Miriam replied. "It always does." He nodded, unable to form another question. As the ship pulled away from the shore, Miriam looked back one last time. The island was already beginning to hide, its silhouette dissolving into the mist. There was no anger, no farewell, only continuity. On the deck, Thomas noticed something too late. His reflection in the sea did not mirror him perfectly. Miriam Hale returned to the world the way one returns from a dream too terrible to forget. The harbor was loud, alive, painfully normal. People shouted, cargo was unloaded, the sea moved as it always had. Nothing there suggested that an entire island had existed where it should not. No records, no maps, no altered routes. Except one. Weeks later, Miriam tried to return to her work. She sat before familiar, trustworthy maps, filled with clean lines and ancient names, but her hands trembled. Every time she tried to trace a route, the pencil veered on its own, forming wrong curves, abrupt breaks, symbols. She erased them. They returned. At night, she dreamed of black stone and streets that breathed. She dreamed of motionless shadows, imitating her posture at the foot of the bed. In some dreams, she woke up inside them. Thomas Gray was never seen again. Some said he went mad at sea. Others swore they had seen him walking along the shore, standing too still, staring at the horizon for hours, as if waiting for instructions that would never come. Miriam stopped trying to explain. She knew now that maps were not meant to show where something was. They existed to remind that something needed to be remembered. One morning, she found a parchment on her desk. She did not remember placing it there. It was ancient, made of dried material that felt almost alive. At its center lay a familiar symbol, complete. She did not try to destroy it. She simply closed her eyes and drew around it. Somewhere in the world, an island that did not exist on maps moved a little closer, and Miriam understood too late that she had not survived. She had been chosen.